Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So another one about the Syrian and Turkey earthquake. More examples of the suffering going on there, but one I wanted, it comes a bit later in the report. Another example of humanity, coming against when it's natural disasters, but we don't learn these lessons. And maybe this is the reason for natural disasters, if there ever could be a reason, is that it's a way, like with any accident, it's a way to wake us up. Like when the first car didn't have seatbelts in it and people would die because they didn't have seatbelts. And those deaths made people think, oh yeah, of course, we need to have something that could help people. So we'd have seatbelts, then we'd have airbags. So these things are wake-up calls for us to understand and change. And what it's trying to show is, look at the innate, intrinsic nature of humanity. When there is this disaster, when it is natural, as it were, not man-made, not a war or something like that, then look how we all rally round each other and we see past the divisions, the man-made divisions that we've created for ourselves, the divisions of land, of all these different divisions that most of them are man-made constructs from people thousands of years ago, which were made in order to control people or to classify, put us in a box. But the true nature of us comes out when we see a fellow human being crying or suffering. Now, the lesson to be learned is that, we don't need to only do that through natural disasters. We can do that all the time. And we keep having these reminders. And unlike the people who invented the car, and then when there was an accident and they realised they needed to create seatbelts and airbags, we're not seeing these earthquakes and these disasters and thinking, how can we change humanity? But the problem is there's too many powerful people out there that or they don't really want to change, or think that the status quo, what we have, is the best that we possibly could have. The power of the people, the power of the bits of land, they don't want to give that away, the dominions. They don't want us all to be one, to be seen as one. But an example here where an Israeli unit went to go to a majoritively Muslim country, possibly saved a Muslim life. Israelis may also be Jewish. Jews saving Muslims. Of course, this is nothing unheard of. Real Jews and Muslims, people who believe in humanity and faith, should always try and defend each other. But obviously, as we know, in Israel and Palestine, they're fighting each other. Excuse me. Bombing bits of land, fighting over bits of land that they can never own. The dominion of the earth is for humanity, or animals and humanity, or whomever. Maybe there is no one who has to claim divinity. That is a man-made construct in itself. We don't need to own something. We don't need to know who owns something to be able to enjoy it, to live in it. We shouldn't need that. But here you see that fighting each other, and here you see helping each other. Why can't we see this? This should be the reason why we eradicate wars. This should be the reason we eradicate borders, physical and mental, borders of land, borders against humanity, borders against us doing the right things for the benefits of humanity and wasting our time with competition, money, power and greed. I keep going on about these things. So yeah, I'm going to play you this and then you can see. And also at the end, it's ironic that Russians and all sorts of other countries are sending people to help, and we're all watching how great it is that international people and all sorts are getting together to try and help as quickly as possible to help these people that are trapped under the rubble. And the next story is about Russia, bombing parts of Ukraine. That still we can't. And the problem is, I guess, and maybe why some people are angry against Turkey, and they feel that they haven't done enough. But I guess the problem is it's such a huge earthquake. Would any country be able to, if you've got 5,000 different buildings, have all this equipment in the system that we live within? Probably no country, even the United States or China, would have struggled to be everywhere at once with all the stuff. But of course, if we lived in a better system that was already prepared for this, and they didn't have money as a reason, we wouldn't have all this stuff. But anyway, yeah, so just to show that the people in power are our problem. And I'm not saying it's insurrection or anything like that, but what we do need to do is find a way to change. We all need to look deep within our hearts. We can't be saying we care about the suffering of humanity. We can't, these powerful people that will stand up and cry and send aid and do all these good things. Well, they need to wake up. They need to learn the lesson that what counts more than money, what counts more than your land, what counts more than your identity, what counts more than the man-made constructs that you hold on dear to. What counts more is humanity. And serving it and benefiting it. And until you can get that into your head, we ain't going to have a better system, because you're going to keep the same system that is against humanity, because it's keeping us divided, it's keeping us wasting our time and our energies with money and the pursuit of it and competition. Anyway, listen to these bits that I've got from you from Sky News.
20-odd thousand people have died. Undoubtedly, that number will increase significantly, looking at the level of damage that we have witnessed. Let's speak to this family who have found themselves in this tented accommodation for now. Tell us who we're talking to and their experience. This gentleman first.
Merhaba. Bize hikayenizi anlatır mısınız? Ne yaşadınız depremde? Buraya nasıl geldiniz?
Sabah 4:20 sıralarıydı. Şiddetli bir deprem oldu. Hepimiz bir kereden dışarı kaçtık.
It was a very strong earthquake about 4:50 in the middle of the night.
Çıktık dışarıda, herkes bir bağırma
We barely
sesleri.
escaped from house. There were
Binalar
shoutings,
kereden
crying
yıkıldı.
people. It was a very heavy rain.
Valimiz suçlu. Valimiz demiş Adıyaman'da bir şey yoktur.
Siz devam edin.
Ondan sonra abla o bağırıyor. Bizi kurtarın, bu bağırıyor. Bizi
Everybody
kurtarın.
is shouting, save me.
Gittik molozun altında 5 kişi kaldırıyoruz. Olmuyor. Anahtar koyduk. Olmuyor. Ayak her yeri patlamıştı abla yani.
We tried to save our friends from a rubble, but when we took him out, all of his head
Was damaged, yeah.
Sonra da hepsi,
he saw his friends.
birçoğu da zaten öldü abla. Akrabalarımız, arkadaşlarımız, komşularımız.
Many of our relatives, our neighbors, our friends are dead. They are still under those rubbles.
Adıyaman valisinin yüzünden 3 gün buraya yardım gelmedi. Adıyaman
2
valisinin.
gün boyunca
He.
molozlarda
We
yani
didn't
hiçbir
see
çalışma
any,
yoktu.
we didn't come any help, any rescue teams. We didn't see any rescue teams for 2
Millet de
days.
dalga geçmiş. Adıyaman halkı da dalga geçmiş yani. Bir şey yok diye. Biz 3 gün burada mağdur perişan olduk. Onun için AFAD buraya geç geldi.
We searched for somebody responsible. We called the authorities, but nobody came in 2 days. Şimdi burada mı kalıyorsun?
Şu an burada kalıyoruz.
Çadırda mı
Allah razı olsun milletimizden, vatanımızdan herkes bize yardım gönderdi. Çadırımızı kurduk, çocuklarımızı getirdik.
God bless. We are very thankful for the voluntary people.
Allah hepsinden razı
For
olsun.
the aid they send us here. At least we save ourselves, we save our children, and we can have a tent. They are staying here. Yeah.
Do they know how long they'll be
3-4 gündür
staying?
buradayız abla.
They are here since 3 days. Kaç gün daha kalmayı düşünüyorsun?
Abla ben çocuklarımı göndereceğim ama ben memleketimi bırakamıyorum
kaç
yani.
çocuk var?
Bir oğlum var zaten burada. Burada da içerideki var.
He has one son. He says I want to send
Gidemem yani, abla,
my wife and
bırakamıyorum
my
memleketimi.
child away from here, but I cannot leave my hometown.
What is it like living in the tent at the moment?
Çadırda kalmak nasıl,
Abla
şartlar
çadır
nasıl diye soruyor.
ilk gün çocuklar için çok soğuktu. Bizler yetişkin yine
The
ısınıyoruz
first
ama
day was very cold,
çok-
very cold,
çocuk için
especially for the
soğuktu yani abla.
children. We can cope with it, but for the children it's very hard. Şimdi nasıl şartlar?
şu an daha iyi çünkü soba kurduk. İçeri biraz ısındı.
Now we have
Allah razı
heating
olsun
in the
AFAD'dan,
tent.
insanlardan, milletten.
We are very thankful for AFAD and for the government. At least we have a heating in the tent.
Okay. How are the children coping?
Çocuklar, burada kalan çocuklar sizin oğlunuz nasıl idare ediyor, ne diyorlar, ne soruyorlar?
Diyor, kim diyor evimize gitmeyin çocuklarımız diyor, ev sallanıyor. O etkiyi yaşamışlar. Beni götürme diyor. Yani bu tedirgin içerisindeyiz. Her an bir şey olur, tekrar sallanırız. Çocuklarımız
My
ağlıyor.
boy and some of the children are saying we don't want to go home back. The house is shaking all the time. They are very afraid of that shaking and aftershocks.
What does he want to say to people who are watching us around the world this morning?
Bu programı yayını seyreden dünyadan herkese ne söylemek istersin?
Allah herkesten razı olsun. Herkes bize koştu, kapısını açtı. Bize yardımcı oldular.
We are very thankful for the international community for helping us, for supporting us, and for all the
Allah
solidarity.
devletimize zeval vermesin.
God bless our government and our country.
Sevdiklerimizi de kaybettik.
We lost
Başka da bir şey söyleyemiyorum ben.
We lost our loved ones. Very many people. Everybody should be thankful for their lives, for their health and for their lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
Çok teşekkür ederiz.
Teşekkür
Here from
ederim.
the UN Refugee Agency.
It's a case of mapping and targeting the area where are the most people in need, where supplies can most easily be taken to them, where teams can be deployed, and then working through the different regions in that manner. But it's an extremely complicated organization, and it needs a lot of planning and people coming together for that coordination.
You know, he's obviously a strong man, isn't he? Devastated by having lost his family, some of his family and a lot of his friends in such traumatic circumstances. A proud man, and yet, you know, he's broken.
How do you process it as well? I mean, we all know that Turkey is earthquake prone, but there's a difference between knowing that your country has earthquakes and then seeing your whole city decimated. And that's what people are living with here. They haven't seen an earthquake on this level for a century. This is one of the biggest earthquakes that has happened in the world in a decade. And they are all trying to process not just losing their homes, but their loved ones, and then seeing every single day the destruction around them is totally incomprehensible.
Yeah, just looking up at these buildings here. I mean, this is one of the lucky apartment blocks, if you will. You know, there is some damage, but it is obviously built appropriately, and as a result, it has withstood 2 earthquakes in quick succession.
Yeah, but then I think lots of people are wondering, if that's my house and it hasn't fallen down, but there's cracks in the front, am I actually safe? If I go in, is there big damage that a smaller quake will then cause an issue with? And that's the thing that's running through people's minds. There's this post-traumatic stress, essentially, that people are going through, because if their building hasn't fallen down completely, they're worried that they might get told to go back in and live there.
Indeed so. People from these buildings around us, some of them are certainly not habitable, and that is why they have found themselves here in this tented city, as you were saying. This is only just a start, and it's going to start to... there's a lot of space here in this car park. They'll be putting at least another row, if not 2, of properties here. Aid is arriving. These people, although they have lost everything, are counting themselves as some of the lucky ones. We know that 21,000 people have so far lost their lives. That will inevitably increase significantly. John Sparks also has some tales of hope from Marash.
The air is soaked in dust and smoke. The city marked with concrete mounds. But in this apocalyptic state, there is evidence of life. Human beings still breathing in the rubble. At the Abra apartment block, we saw an Israeli rescue team exploring the remains. One of the first international groups to reach Karaman Marash. And they had made a life-saving discovery. A young woman had been rescued from the gloom. Her name, Zeynep Chivi. She was fast asleep when the earthquake struck, dressed in polka dot pajamas, and we could see her shivering and crying after her 3-day ordeal. We're here, don't be afraid, said a paramedic. Her younger sister, Elif, followed right behind. The 20-year-old was also shivering. But the rescuers were elated, and the family overjoyed, praying for a miracle they'd been delivered to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Efendim, kadın kuzenim, teyzemin kızı.
His name is Burak, and he told us he's the girl's cousin. Did you think that you had lost her, or did you still have hope in your heart? We thought they were dead. We'd prepared the burial plot. The Israelis said the sisters' survival owed much to chance, some information from an earlier success.
We pulled out a man named Hussein. He was 65 years old. And he told us that he heard voices. And we penetrated the additional room and we didn't find anyone. But we decided to return to this building again. Maybe he was right. So it was not so close, but we found two women here.
We've just come round the corner. It's the same building, but the contrast could not be any greater. These are local people. They are using crowbars and spades to try and get access to the building. They want to do the same thing. They're trying to save people's lives. They're trying to retrieve bodies, but it is going to take them much, much longer to do it. They can smell and in some cases see the bodies, but it doesn't mean they can get them out. What is happening here? We can smell a body here, says this volunteer. The body is lying on a bed, so we're trying to dislodge it. The victims make an undignified trip to a sports stadium for identification. Some go by hand, others in diggers, while the injured go to local hospitals like this one, which has turned its reception into a giant ward. Here we met a relative of Zayap and Elif, and we asked him how they were doing.
Normal.
No injuries, said cousin Kasim Chivit, but they're bruised and cold, and they're trying to revive them. Specialists and supplies have begun to arrive here, but they can't meet the demand in this traumatized city. John Sparks, Sky News in Kahramanmaraş.
More and more water arriving here. I'll just show you over this shoulder, actually. More and more water arriving here all the time. But given the number of people that they are helping, that is certainly, they're going to get through that over the next 24 hours or so, given that it's absolutely necessary for all aspects of people's lives here. There is no water supply in the city at the moment. We'll bring you all the latest from Turkey and Syria throughout the morning. But first, let's take a look at some of the other stories that are making news here on the programme today. And the very latest from Ukraine. Explosions have been heard around Ukraine as officials report several high-voltage facilities attacked by Russian missiles this morning, causing disruption to their power supply. Let's get more, should we? Our security and defence editor, Deborah Haynes, is joining us now from Dnipro in eastern Ukraine. Hello to you, Deborah. I'm hearing from the Ukrainian presidential advisor calling again for long-range missiles.
Yes, so this morning, yet again, Ukraine came under attack from multiple Russian missiles hitting multiple regions. There's the mayor in Zaporizhia, one of the big cities in southern eastern Ukraine, said that 17 missiles struck. He said that that was the largest number of missiles in one go hitting that city since the full-scale invasion was launched by Russia almost a year ago. There's also been missile strikes in Kharkiv, in the northeast, in Kyiv, here in Dnipro overnight. The Sky team heard the sound of explosions as a number of drones were shot out of the sky. Ukraine's air defense system has been working incredibly hard yet again, trying to protect the infrastructure that these Russian missiles seem to be going after. But of course, some get through, officials saying that a number of S-300 missiles were used by Russia and their air defense systems just can't shoot them down. And so, yes, we are hearing once again for those desperate pleas for more air defense systems. Of course, we've also had those pleas from the president himself on his tour of Europe and the UK for fast jets. The aircraft that the Ukrainians have, they're Soviet-era ones. The radars aren't great. It makes it very difficult for those aircraft to be able to shoot missiles and drones out the sky.
OK, for now, thank you. In other news, the UK has narrowly avoided a recession.
So there you go, you see. One part of the place that we all found ourselves upon freely, they're trying to pick bodies out of rubble to save life, and in another part, they're fighting each other with planes and rockets and missiles. And yeah, there may be aggressors and those who are defending, and I get that. I guess in the system that we live within, that's it. But does that have to be the way that humanity lives? When will we ever learn? We're given so many examples, so many chances, and yet still we want to live with a system where we fight each other. Sometimes I get tired of saying the same things over the 500, nearly 600 pursuits of truth. And I'm not the first and not the only one. And throughout history, people have been talking about this. When will humanity learn and become one and spend its time benefiting humanity and giving us all a better existence and not wasting our energy? I don't know. I don't know what it will take. What kind of catastrophe, bigger than an earthquake on a planetary scale, as it were, to wake humanity up and make them think that, wait a minute, why are we living this way? Is it going to take some alien force to come down and tell us that, how silly you are, humans, living in this way? Why are you fighting against one another when you are one species? You are wasting your time. We will kill you now. Or maybe that'll be the false flag that will have to be created to get humanity to all come together to fight someone other than themselves. But then it's still the same thing, isn't it? It's still us against them. It's still fighting. It's still division. Oh dear. Why is it humanity? Why is it the life source, whatever we are, the energy, always wants to obtain more than the other one? Or not love more than hate? I don't know. Take care, take it easy, rest in peace.